Today is May 7th, and I know a lot of people with student loan debt have been panicking a little now that wage garnishment and default reportings have been officially declared a thing as of May 5th. So Cinco de Mayo, defaults have started. So it's no laughing matter. I'm sorry. I just thought that that was interesting that they chose the 5th of May to do that. So I want to give a breakdown of what is happening because there seems to be a lot of panic. We woke up to Monday morning LoanSense here with so many calls and inquiries from people that I definitely want to address the panic. I want to address some of our chief concerns. There's a lot of concerns, especially around borrower defense, public service loan forgiveness. What are the income-driven repayment options? What to do, okay? So I want to address that chapter by chapter in this video. I also want to share a video of a borrower who tells her story on CBS News. I just wanted to do a recap and talk through how people can avoid her situation, okay? Because I do think we'll hear a lot of panic stories in media, but what is it that you can actually do to empower yourself? Not just empower yourself, but have action items and steps to take. You don't need to sit there or just try to call your servicer and not get through, which is part of her story. So I'll go through that chapter by chapter, okay? But first off, let's just say wage garnishment. I want to start with some stats. TransUnion has said that about 20.5% of borrowers are now in the pathway to default. And in 2020, first quarter of 2020 was only 11%. So we have defaulted the rates of people going into default. I want to say that I know from the borrowers we're speaking to, even though they've enrolled in income-driven plans, their servicers have not been responsive, and now they're getting multiple late payments or non-payments reported on their credit. So they're technically counted on the path to default, even though they have enrolled their income-driven repayment paperwork, okay? So basically people are doing the steps it's taking, the servicers are being non-responsive, and now the borrower is at risk. So I really highly recommend people do not sit on the phone trying to speak to your servicer. Let's take action, enroll into income-driven plans, refile the paperwork. So if you did it through Studentaid.gov, there's a backlog because the Studentaid.gov is managed by the Department of Ed, which had a 50% staff cut. I recommend literally taking the form, submitting them directly to your servicer. LoanSense does that. We submit paperwork directly to the servicer, submit everything in writing, and have a paper trail. Because when you submit stuff to Studentaid.gov, there is no paper trail. So you could say, hey, I submitted my income-driven repayment plan paperwork in January, and Studentaid.gov will give you no paper trail, and there's no evidence you did it. So at LoanSense, we submit directly to the servicer. We have all the evidence, and it gives a much more solid ground to be able to get out of whatever default or late payment situation that's being recorded, even though you have done your part. So that's first and foremost. So I'm going to put links below if you want to get started with us to help you get out of whatever situation that is. We are helping borrowers right now, whether it's just making sure your enrollment into income driven is recognized, or whether you qualify for borrower defense and have just been putting it off since you haven't had to repay. And lastly, public service loan forgiveness. If you're anywhere near the 120th payment, we definitely recommend you get out of save, enroll yourself into a plan so you can get that time counted. So now that I've given, and by the way, if you don't know how to do that, we are on standby to help with that as well. So I just want to make that really clear. Now, and by the way, please comment below if you want more information. We try to answer all our comments and want to give everybody answers around what is best for their situation, okay? So you definitely should not continue to be in the default pathway, because once you're in that default pathway, the government can garnish your wages, garnish your tax returns. So if you're supposed to get money back from your April tax return filing, they can garnish that. If you get disability, Social Security, they can garnish that. So it's best to figure out how to get out of it and not do what this borrower on this news article did, which is to call her servicer and accept whatever payment they tell you. Do not do that, okay? And I will pause and make commentary as we go through the video. So let me try to screen share this right here because I think it's fascinating what is happening with this borrower. So I'm just going to make sure that you can see the screen. Hold on a second. Okay, so here we go. And I'm going to pause and make comments throughout.
Sending student loan payments in default to debt collectors. Mandatory repayments had been on hold since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic back in March of 2020. But now the Treasury Department's offset program could pay off delinquent debts by withholding government payments like tax refunds and Social Security benefits. This may affect the more than 5 million Americans who have defaulted on their loans since federal payments were paused. The Education Department estimates another 4 million borrowers could default in the coming months. Christina Lyons joins us now. She is a mom who works.
Okay, so I want to correct that. Those 5 million people are people who part of them are people who have filed into income driven and are still reported on the pathway of default. Okay, so I want to correct that. It's also borrowers who have done their part and they're still being put on the pathway to default. I just want to clarify that. And the reason we know is because we're actively working with such borrowers. So if you're in the situation where you enrolled in income driven and nothing was processed and now they're telling you you have missed payments and your credit is getting hurt, we definitely need to rectify that so you don't get your wages garnished. Now let's listen to this borrower's story and I can tell you how to prevent and avoid the situation she has put herself into.
Works in the home and has student loans. Christina, thank you for being here and sharing your story with us. Tell us how the repayment has been going over the last few years.
I've been trying to get in touch with the Department of Education to set up a repayment plan. Everything that they want is such a high price for repayment loans that I am not able to make those payments. I'm currently a stay-at-home mom, and my husband also has student loans, and the price that they keep giving us for the quote for the payment is way too high compared to what we can afford compared to the cost of living nowadays.
And even when you call, are you running into any kind of roadblocks, or are you in general able to get somebody on the phone pretty easily?
A few months ago when I was trying to do it, I was able to get on in touch with people easily. But lately, the last few times I called, it says no one is in the office of the Department of Education, and it keeps rerouting me through an automated system.
How frustrating. What will the consequences of default kicking in today have on your life and your ability to afford your bills?
Dire consequences. I will probably end up homeless and my family will lose everything we have.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit? Because I think for a lot of people, they may think, look, you borrow the money, you know what you're signing up for, you know you have to pay it back, but it's not that black and white, right?
No, it's not. I am willing to definitely make payments and pay back my loan, but every time it's like the interest grows so high that we'll probably be in debt forever for the rest of our lives. And also at the same time, with the rising cost of food and everything else, I literally have to choose between, do I pay my rent, do I feed my children, or do I make this loan payment?
Oh, Christina, I'm sure there are a lot of people who are just like you, who are thinking, you know, the numbers, the math isn't mathing. We thank you for sharing your story with us. We wish you the best.
Okay, so I wanted to take a pause there, and I'm going to stop the screen share. I want to address, and I had to move. Sorry, the internet connection was going in and out for some reason. I want to address the situation. So number one, at LoanSense, we definitely do not recommend calling your servicer to try to get a reasonable payment plan. That's just not going to happen. The way to get the best and most affordable payment plan is to submit the paperwork, create a paper trail, and submit the proof of income over the last 3 years. You can use different forms of income. So whatever income is the lowest over the last 3 years, your servicer will accept that. If you're in the pathway of default, they might ask for some budgeting numbers, but I would not call up the servicer or call up the Department of Education in hopes that they're going to give you the best payment plan. That's just not going to happen, because they're just going to say, what's your current income? If your current income is zero and you are filing your taxes jointly with your spouse, like in that viewer's situation, if they file their taxes separately, then their spouse's income, her spouse's income wouldn't even count towards her payment, in which case she could legitimately get a payment of $0. I don't understand why she's calling up and getting high payments when she is earning no money. She should have a payment of $0 right now, and it should count as a payment. So that's the part of the segment I don't understand. Nobody is there telling her that. If she calls up the servicer or the Department of Ed and says, my husband's income is X, they're going to take his income and use it to count for her loans, when in reality is she could file her taxes separately and not even have to use her husband's income. That's number one. Number two is calling up the servicer and or the Department of Ed is futile, because the wait times are so long right now. And that's not the way to get the maximum help, because they're not going to help with submitting and getting an affordable payment plan. So I just want to say that, first of all, servicers are not your champions. They don't work for you. They work for their bottom line, which is to get you to pay and service your loan for as long as they can. And that means actually not getting access to forgiveness. So this borrower should pay for 20 to 25 years max, because she should already be grandfathered into the current income-driven repayment programs and literally be done paying after the 20 to 25 year time period, if she's not a public servant, which right now she's a stay-at-home mom, so I'm assuming she's not. But if she were ever a public servant and she didn't put her application into the public service loan forgiveness program and she paid under that, then she should have even less time. But the point is, the idea that you have this unaffordable payment that you don't know what to do with and that you're just going to go into default, don't let that happen to you, because going into default and getting your wages garnished and having complete zero control over your payment is the most disempowering and the worst situation to be in. So here at LoanSense, we will submit paperwork. It's assisted filing. It looks like you're submitting it. We will help you, and we will create a paper trail. And we will also submit communications and help you submit communications to your servicer, so it's all in writing. No repayment certification or payment amount should be done over the telephone with no written track record, without knowing the best proof of income to submit, because it leads to this borrower situation. It's really sad because, the government says that getting help with your student loans is considered predatory. And at LoanSense, we're not associated with the Department of Ed, but I do think genuinely and truly that people need help with their student loans. If you are one of them, you can't get into an income-driven program, you called your servicer, you're getting no response, you are trying to enroll in borrower defense, we have created a new product with borrower defense. We can help people with borrower defense. We can also help people review their borrower defense application, create a strong application. The point is, do not sit there alone. I will link below. You can literally upload your student loan information and get help from us, and schedule and get assigned an advisor who has tons of experience, not just with student loans, but also with the mortgage guidelines in the event you want to buy a house. And we also, there's a bit of a video lag here, but also we can help with the borrower defense process. I will share a link to a free call on borrower defense qualification. Please comment, like, subscribe, and we cannot wait to help you get out of debt and relieve the stress around your student loans. Have a great day.